Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be looking back at what took place in the EPL over the weekend and also Man City being crowned champions of the League Cup. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some football, we have returning to the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christoph. Nowhere else to start but over there at Wembley. The big final, Arsenal versus Man City. And it was Man City, Christoph, that came away big winners. I had predicted Arsenal to lift the trophy, but Man City, they came out the victors. What was your take on the game?
Um, my take on the game, or what I think it is that it was a tactical disaster class from Mikel Arteta, in my opinion.
Disaster class. Why do you say that though?
Um, uh, a lot of people, as they always do, they always hail Pep as a genius for winning what would be perceived as tough games. But in my opinion, he did not do anything that no other team has not already done and tried against Arsenal. Um, 20 minutes into the game, Arsenal looked good the first 20 minutes. Then after that, I think Pep Guardiola used those first 20 minutes to kind of see how Arsenal was going to play, then put a strategy in place. Um, 5 minutes into that strategy, I saw what they were doing.
Oh, what was that strategy though? What was the strategy that
So
that
it,
Pep
it it again it
implemented?
again it's a strategy that we've seen from other teams throughout the season so far. What they do is they allow the Arsenal centre backs to kick possession of the ball. Don't pressure them and open up any space because they cannot pass through the lines. Nobody is dropping deep to come and receive the ball. Otherwise, they also invite pressure. Uh Kepa is also not a sweeper keeper. He's not very good with his feet, so he has to play very simple passes.
Oh,
Uh,
not a good distributor as well then.
right. So those passes were no, cut off by Man City because only the two centre backs could receive the ball. And if you were to try and bypass the centre backs and go to midfield, then you have Rice and Zubamendi, and then there's Rodri and Bernardo Silva to get onto them, and then uh obviously they
But
lose
in
possession.
in general though, how would you counter that strategy that Pep implemented then, so to speak, or other teams have
Easy,
used?
easy. You tell a player to drop in deep and carry the ball. There was no ball carrier on the field, so you bring one
Oh,
in.
you mean like, for example, bring a Rice back deep, maybe in the back line, and he would progress the ball from there.
Ideally, you want somebody who is potentially a better dribbler and passer than a Rice, but you could still use
Who is
Rice
that man?
because
Let's see.
that is who you have on the
Yeah,
field,
but
so you
use
use Rice.
practical examples
Uh,
in
it,
terms of
uh,
the Arsenal 11.
it
Who is that
instead
man?
in the Arsenal 11 that started the game, there was none. In the
What?
starting 11, there
But
was none.
you're saying that's an easy counter. I'm talking about the game. I'm not talking about generally.
No, no, no. But
In
you're
in game,
saying
what would have, to
in
me, Arsenal should have
in
gone long.
in
They
the
have the big
yes,
number nine up front, kick the
no,
ball long.
they should have gone long. They should have gone long.
Yeah,
Um,
fight for the second ball, go long, bypass the midfield, go to Gokires, and then fight for the second ball.
I agree with you. That's what they should have done. And they did do that on occasion. But if you watch the game, Kai Havertz, who they played it long to, did not win a single aerial duel for the entire game.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. But
Gyökeres is not going to win headers, but you could still try and play it to him. But Kai Havertz was the center forward, shadow center forward or whatever. They
are the
played
number
long.
10,
They played long to him, but he did not win any of
right?
those aerial duels, and that's fine. So
Oh,
you
so should
make it,
Arteta have made a sub then? If Arteta saw that this was
yeah,
the issue,
yeah,
should he have
yes.
made a substitution?
Arteta should have made at least two substitutions
And
halftime.
what would have who were those subs?
Martinelli should have come on, right?
That's for Trossard
So
on the left hand side.
for Trossard, so you could have pace to go behind. You go long, and he can run onto those
Right,
balls.
right, right. That's a
Um,
good point.
I would have withdrawn Havertz and either bring on Madueke or Dorman uh move Saka into midfield or something, but he was
Oh,
not
so
doing
play
it
Saka in the number 10 role
in the
as
number
he
10
played
role
on a
because
couple of
it,
occasions in
in my
season.
opinion, should not be starting in the first place because
Oh,
you have
Saka?
yeah, Saka should be
Saka.
dropped. Saka should have
Wow.
been dropped months ago.
Wow. Wow. But didn't Saka recently just sign a mega contract? Are you saying that the contract
That
is weighing him down?
the mega contract or not is irrelevant. It's the
Wow.
performances on the field that
That would
kind
have
of
raised a lot of eyebrows though, Christoph. I mean,
I
dropping your
no,
arguably your best player.
I don't think it would have raised as many eyebrows as you think. Arsenal's
Mm.
best player or players this season were probably Gabriel and Raya. If you ended the season now and you were to give somebody Arsenal
Like a
player of the
player of
season,
the
it would
player of the season. It would
player
be
of
a
the season
defender then,
it would be Gabriel or Raya.
or even maybe a Timber.
Or, or a Timber or a Declan Rice. I think the
But it's
only thing
someone defensive. It's not one
right
offensive.
it's not any of the attacking players.
Interesting
Um,
stuff.
right.
But
So
no
there
credit to Man City though, Christoph. I mean,
no
we've hear
Man City
what
have
Man City did, but no credit.
I'm not going to give credit for something I've seen before. It's not something Pep Guardiola came up with on the spot. Other
Mm.
teams have been doing it to Arsenal
But I
throughout the
mean, no
season.
credit for the execution.
No,
Wow.
for what?
Wow.
What execution? Man
I
City
mean,
is going to be
uh,
playing with higher quality players than the rest of
yeah,
the league. So
well.
it
But I mean, you have to give some credit to Pep, Christopher, coming up with the tactic, implementing the tactic, and executing it to perfection, which
what
led to
what
them lifting the title at the end of the day.
like I said, that's why I call the game a tactical disaster class. Because to me, it's not anything impressive that Pep did. It was Mikel Arteta failing to see what is happening and waiting until the game has gone to even make your first change.
Mm. So are
Half
you saying then that this
halftime,
was self-inflicted by Arsenal?
it was self-inflicted by Mikel Arteta. I'm not going. I'm not going to. Obviously, you expect your players to perform or whatever, but to me, watching
Yeah,
that
but it could
game,
have
the
been the pressure
players
of the
were.
situation getting to the players as well.
To me, watching this game, it felt like the players were following their tactical instructions to a T.
Right?
Nobody, to me, nobody said, "All right, this is not working. Let's change it." Not the manager, not the players on the field. All right, and again, you wait until you have conceded two. The game has gone to make changes. You went in at halftime. You saw that things
Yeah,
were not
but
working,
Arsenal was
and you
in the
made
game
no
up to the
change.
halftime though,
No,
Christoph.
no. Arsenal
It
was
was
in. Arsenal was
yeah,
in the game for the first 25 minutes.
yeah, and
Yes,
but
Man
the
City.
halftime score was nil all, so you're still in the game.
Yeah, the halftime score was nil all, but you could have seen from the 25th minute that Arsenal had lost control of the game.
So you're saying the changes should have come at halftime.
Changes should have come at halftime. And
I see, I see.
when you follow like the media or whatever, people are saying Kepa this Kepa. I don't blame Kepa. Yes, the keeper made a mistake that led to the first goal,
But would you
right?
have started him?
Would I have started him? I
Yes.
understand why they started him, but I would have started my best keeper for a final.
Right. So there goes the error. So the blunder was from the starting 11.
Yeah, but I said it. The starting 11, there was no ball carrier in the
Technically, well,
starting
I
11 in the
mean,
first place.
yeah,
So
at the end of the day, the manager have to put his hand up for the team selection. And he definitely selected Kepa. Again, I'm sure he has his rational reasons. Oftentimes in these lesser competition, quote and unquote, it's the second string keeper that usually gets the start. So it could have been a policy from the jump that regardless of how far Arsenal progress in this competition, Kepa, you are the keeper for the cup, regardless of how far, whether we get to the finalists or
no,
no. So
I
it could be
agree
a
with
case
you.
where
I
Arteta was just keeping
that
his
was
word to his player.
that was probably the case where Kepa has played every cup game so far, so you continue with him. Is
Right.
that, like I said, I don't have a problem. Yes, Kepa made a mistake, but
But you're
Kepa
saying
was
you would have selected Rhea for the final.
I would have selected Raya for the final, but I do not blame Kepa for the loss. The loss is on Mikel Arteta.
All right. So
It
question to you though, would you have changed the keeper? So
halftime, yes.
having started Kepa, would
Right.
you have made a keeper substitution come
I
halftime?
I
Having
would have
seen now the strategy and tactics that
if
Pep
I
was now
was
implementing.
if I was managing that game halftime, I would have subbed Kepa for Raya. Not because I thought he was bad in the first half or
Right,
anything
right.
like that, but
But
because
Raya
he's
probably
not.
have better distribution, better with his
Raya has
feet.
better distribution, better on his feet. He will bypass the midfield and go long and whatever. Kepa cannot do that.
And fairly accurate with his passes as
Fairly
well.
accurate with the
Long
pass.
passes, diagonals.
I would have brought on Martinelli. So when I'm playing long, I have somebody with the
Right,
pace
to
to
run
run
in
onto
behind
those balls,
as opposed to a Trossard.
as
But
opposed to
would
a
you have
Trossard.
started Martinelli though?
Uh,
Or
no,
that was another blunder
no,
that
no.
you could
For
say,
yeah, yes and no. Yes and no. To me,
mm,
you just saw Man City lose back-to-back games against Real Madrid, and you saw Real Madrid kill them on the counter attack.
right,
You,
right, pace. Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it
You
tells
can't
me
coach pace.
Mikel Arteta did not watch any of those games and did not take any notes.
Mm. Pace was the killer.
P,
Valverde,
P,
I
P,
recall Valverde with that break on the right.
right, right. He did not watch those games. He did not watch
Mm,
the highlights. He did not see how Man City was defeated by Madrid. So he did not take any notes. He already had a
gotcha.
plan in mind and tried to execute. The plan failed by halftime. Switch
And
the
Madrid
system
would
up.
have shown them the blueprint how to beat
There was a
Man City.
blueprint that they've been using the blueprint for several seasons now, and it's worked for those several seasons. Mikel Arteta has taken no notes from any of those games.
So Arteta was out tactic by Pep then. The
Uh,
master beat up the apprentice.
the way I see it is either Mikel Arteta's brain was completely switched off in that game. Senses escaped him in that match, or he was gifting his master a win, because that is the only thing. That is the only thing. 25 minutes
Ah,
into the game, I saw what was happening and said in my head, all right, these are the changes that need to be made in order to
right.
win this match. Mikel Arteta waited until 65 minutes, 2-0 down, to make a single change in that game. And the game was already gone.
Mm.
Changes should have been
I mean,
made
2-0 doesn't
halftime.
mean completely gone. One goal
No,
would have
no,
really
no.
changed the
You
outlook.
you are 2-0
Uh,
down in a
Team
final.
tighten up, start dropping back,
You
inviting
are
pressure.
you are
One goal, getting a goal back could have
Man City,
potentially changed.
Man City does not invite pressure when they're winning games. Only
Mm.
Arsenal does that.
And of course, Man City was cognizant of the Arsenal threat from set pieces as well. Not many corners in this game, Christoph.
Oh,
So
not
that
many.
eliminated the
While
threat of
while
scoring from a corner.
while Arsenal,
Arsenal was often dubbed set piece FC earlier in the season.
strange statement considering that Liverpool has the same number of set piece goals as Arsenal.
Well, the media always comes with a narrative. That's why we are here on Beating the Press, to show up these narratives, bring the real view to the listeners and the subscribers that, as you say, indeed, Arsenal dubbed in the big media houses set piece FC, but Liverpool themselves have the same number of goals from, is it corners, as do
Set piece in
Arsenal, the
general,
set
but
piece in
I
general.
guess
So.
it's corners, given that it's corners where Arsenal have scored all their set pieces this season.
Right, right, right. For sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, Liverpool definitely have cracked in a couple set pieces themselves. But interesting times ahead for sure, Christoph. I mean, for me, I have to congratulate Man City and congratulations to Pep. As you say, yes, it was a brilliant final. Tactically, obviously, Man City got it right. Arsenal probably failed to adjust to the tactics of Pep, failed to be pragmatic, and as a result, Pep came up with the goods. O'Reilly, I mean, special mention must go to the youngster O'Reilly, 21 years old, coming up with two big goals in that final. Probably going into this game, Christoph, one would not necessarily have betted on O'Reilly scoring a double. Maybe all eyes was maybe on Haaland or Semenyo, but it was an unsung hero
If I maybe,
coming up
but
with the two big
uh,
goals.
Haaland has never scored at Wembley, so some
Well, I
history
mean, I'm
some
just
history
saying,
was
if
against
if
him.
you were looking at a person who you could say, all right, these persons are the potential goal scorers in this final, I don't think anyone would pick O'Reilly to pop up with a goal. The likes of a
Probably.
Semenyo, Haaland would have probably been among the more mentioned personnel, but O'Reilly, he's a player who have been playing well all season, in all honesty. Pretty versatile, can play at left back, can play in the midfield, have popped up with a few assists, a few goals. So he is definitely one to watch for the future. Only 21 years old. I believe he is the third youngest scorer to score a double in this competition. So Kudos to him, and of course, congratulations to the Man City team and the Man City fans in general. But one less trophy for Arsenal to potentially contend with, Christoph. Talks were being made about a potential quadruple that has now come to an end. But that being said, Arsenal is still in three big competition. Can Arsenal do the treble based on what you've observed?
Not unless Mikel Arteta changes certain things about his attacking approach. And uh, in my opinion, he needs to drop his favorites and start rotate some of your favorites out, 'cause some of them are underperforming. Use up the squad that you have. Clearly,
Mm.
start making changes at halftime. You don't need to wait till 65 minutes to make the changes,
But did
right?
the absence of Eze and Odegaard hurt this team significantly,
Uh,
Christoph? I mean,
it definitely did, but it could have been mitigated by some of the subs that you had on the bench, as well as, Mikel Arteta had already, partially handicapped himself in January by loaning out one area, because you could have played one area in an attacking midfield role when you have Odegaard out, Eze out, right? For me, like I said, halftime they could have made some changes and could have potentially won the game. Bring on Martinelli, and bring on Skelly.
you're saying those players would have potentially made a
Those
difference.
those players would have changed the game for you, and you could have potentially gone and win it.
But
It
that
it
being said, though,
it's the
that
type
being
of
s-
performance and result where if I was the owner of Arsenal Football Club, there would be a discussion with Mikel Arteta to kind of find out what was happening and let him know that this kind of performance cannot happen again.
Mhm. So does this result have any implications for the title race, though, Christoph? What says you? Do you
Uh,
still have the confidence that Arsenal is the team that will go on to lift the title, or did this victory made any difference?
at no point throughout the season did I confidently say I think Arsenal would lift the title. I,
So
I still
have
I
that
still believe.
confidence been elevated, or has that confidence
Uh,
declined since this
it
result?
it has not moved at the
It
moment.
has not moved.
It's the
It's
same
still where
place
it's at.
was. If you recall, coming into this game, I said I did not know who would win because it's a
Right,
game
right.
that could
You
go in
you did
either
say
way.
that. You did say that in
It's
all
a game
honesty. You did say that.
that could go either way.
Right,
So
right.
I don't know if it has affected Arsenal psychologically or not. It is an international break, so there's some time to
I mean,
recoup.
Arsenal has a 9 point lead. Man City do
Uh,
have a game in
You
hand,
call it
and
nine
they
points, I call it 6 points.
no, well, all right. Well, let's
You
call the
say it's
facts
nine
what they
points.
are.
I call it
As
six
the table
points.
stands now, as it is now, Arsenal has a 9 point lead. Man City has a game in hand, and they also have a game against Arsenal. So let's
I tell you what.
assume,
I tell you what. If Arsenal and Man City were perhaps level on points, or maybe even Arsenal was leading by 2 3 points, I would say game set and match Man City title.
really,
If Arsenal was only leading by
wow,
2 or 3 points, I would say game
right?
set and match. But because they have this 9 point buffer or 6 point buffer, it allows them a little breathing room. They can lose or draw to Man City and still go on and win
Right, right.
every other game
So
and still
you're
win
right.
it.
So that becomes the crew, which is the point I was just making, that Arsenal has a 9 point lead. Man City do have a game in hand. Also, Man City has a game versus Arsenal. So let's assume that Man City win their game in hand,
Mhm.
and let's assume that they also beat Arsenal. That would cut the gap to 3 points. So for Arsenal really to battle it, quote and unquote, they need to at least lose two and at least draw one game. And personally, I don't see that happening within the next seven fixtures, to be honest with you.
The good thing
They may
from
lose versus Man City, but I don't see another loss and
like
a
I said,
draw in
yeah,
combination.
they can lose to Man City and still go on to win the
Right,
title comfortably because as it stands, Man City win every remaining game, they can only get a maximum of 85 or 86 points, I think.
right, right.
Arsenal, if they go on and win every remaining game, they have a maximum of 92
And they
points to
win the
get.
title pretty much. But so for Man City really come back into it, they need the help of other teams that Arsenal will face. So yeah, I mean, right now the title is in Arsenal's hands, literally. And of course, if they were to battle it, then we would not hear the end of this one, Christoph. So I think Arsenal should win. at this stage, as you said, having a 9 point cushion and having Man City also to play. So, which is their direct rivals. Man City will definitely have to go out and try to get that 3 points, which I do believe they can get that 3 points. But stranger things have happened.
Uh, uh,
Stranger things have happened. Pressure, points
Stranger
gap. When
thing,
you look at the table, down to
str
3 points. The media, social media,
stranger things have happened, but I tell you what, in my opinion, if Mikel Arteta wants to keep his job come the end of the season,
right?
he will focus on the league, rotate your side for the FA Cup that you have. You have a relatively easier draw than the rest in Southampton. Still, not to say it's not a difficult game, but it's definitely not as difficult as some opponents you could have. So rotate your team against Southampton. Uh, Let them play, let them win, whatever. If they can't win that game, your rotated squad cannot win that game, regardless of if you keep your job somewhere or not, then you need to perhaps ship out those 11 that could not win against Southampton.
That's one of the criticisms I have always had of Arteta. I just don't believe he trusts his squad. So even though he
Uh,
went out,
I,
spent big
I
money, brought in a number of players, I just don't
in
get that feeling that he trusts his squad in
in
the
the
big
past,
moments.
in the past, I disagreed with. I agree with you now, and I don't think it's not just doesn't trust his players. I think it might be something else. I think he gets a number of signings that he brings in, but I also think the sporting director also gets a number of signings that they bring in. So a lot of times we see them not trusting certain players. I think it's the players
But
that
these
he
players
did
are
not bring in.
producing.
I agree. They're
It's not
producing, so
as
I
if the
don't know.
players are not producing. The players are producing once they get that opportunity. You look at a number of players. I mean, which Arsenal player you can pinpoint now that have been given the opportunity and has come out poorly? I can't think of any Arsenal player that I'm seeing which has been producing poorly over the course of the season. I can't think of any. I mean, even when you look at a Martinelli is probably Arsenal's best scorer in the Champions League. So I can't really think of any player who you're saying, no, this player cannot play. I
No,
just feel it's a lack of trust.
I don't think there's any player in the squad currently that cannot play. I do think there are some players that are not performing necessarily at the required level right now and probably should not be starting, in my opinion. And there
Such
are
as you're
for
talking
me
about Saka.
For me, Saka should not be starting. All right, but also somebody like Zubamendi who has played a lot of minutes. It's obvious in
I mean,
games
all
that
right,
he is getting
take that
tired.
example.
So
Take that very
I think
example,
he should
Christoph.
rotate in Norgard for a couple
Correct.
starts.
That's what I'm saying. You signed Norgard. You signed Norgard, and Norgard cannot get a game. You're talking about Brentford former captain. You went out, you signed him. And what?
Premier
Norgard
League
probably
player
play one game out of 30 plus games in the Premier League. He
in
has
the Premier
gotten
League.
one single start. Come on. Come on, man. You can't be telling me you went out, sign a player, and you only can start one game in the entire Premier League. These are the things I'm talking about. It's almost as if you went by the player and you just don't trust him. Not even against the worst team in the league, he can get a game. If you can't get a game against Wolves, then who are you going to get a game against? So these are some of the things that I've criticized Arteta for over the period that I'm not sure what's going on in the camp. You go, you buy these players yet you're not using these players. So interesting times ahead for sure. But again, congrats to Man City. Another trophy for Pep in the cabinet and interesting times ahead in the league running, so to speak. But some other interesting games, Christoph. Liverpool going down to Brighton. That's a game I called. I did not expect Liverpool to win that game, and so said, so done. So another disappointing result for Liverpool, picking up their 10th defeat of the season and also
Yeah,
conceding
that
their
one was
42nd goal of the season as well.
definitely a shocking result to me. I mean, you said it. You thought
Yeah,
Liverpool
for
would lose.
sure. I,
I
I, I
I
didn't see Liverpool reproducing what they produced midweek.
I thought Liverpool was, probably on the up following the performance against Galatasaray. I was like,
Yeah, but I think Liverpool is taking on the Newcastle syndrome, where you have a good performance midweek in the Champions League, but can't reproduce it come the weekend. if you look at the Liverpool squad as well, Christoph, it's a very weak bench. The bench is extremely weak. I mean, there's no game changer on the bench at the moment. And of course, in that game as well, the informed striker, Eketike, he went down injured, why, within the first 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. So immediately Liverpool were handicapped with his departure from the
I
field.
mean, saying Liverpool have a weak bench is a very, very wild
Yeah, but look
statement
at
to
the bench,
make,
look at the facts.
having
Injuries.
spent,
No, you
having
can't look
spent
at the
half
net
a
spent, my
billion,
brother.
having spent half a billion, saying that they have a weak bench feel like a
Look
very,
at the bench. But I'm saying, look at the bench. Who is on the bench? Look at the bench. You're talking about youngster as 16-year-old coming on to
there, there, there,
produce result.
there was a January window.
Well, true, true. But again, as I said, that is done and dusted. I'm saying, look at the bench. There's no one there. So it's almost as if you have to play the same 11 that started midweek is pretty much the same 11 which started this game as well. And fatigue at some point crept in. But again, it's same old from Liverpool in all honesty. Nothing new, nothing different. It's the same Liverpool we've been seeing all season. So it seemed as if they can G themselves up for a one-off performance. But come the next game, they'll go back to their default setting. So probably in a game versus a PSG in the Champions League in front of a jubilant, energetic Anfield crowd, Christoph, they will get that energy and G themselves up and actually elevate their game. But come
I mean,
weekend for a game versus Fulham, they're back
I
to
mean, that's a
default settings.
that's a question mark, to be honest, cause if I don't know if you take a note, but PSG has asked Liga if they can have the weekend of reschedule their match so that they can be fully fit to play Liverpool.
Then why not? If I had that, if you as a manager had that opportunity to get extra rest, why not? Yeah, of course, definitely make the
Nah,
request.
UEFA needs to do something about it. It's kind of hurting the integrity of the competition,
Well,
in
as I
my
said,
opinion.
I'm not sure of the rules. I'm not sure of the rules per se, but if it's
I I
within the rules,
I
then I have
believe
no issue with it. If
I
it's against the rules, then that's another situation. But if
I
it's
don't.
within the rule and
It's
they're
not
not violating any,
it's not against the rules, but it's the integrity of it. You are an elite team playing an elite competition, but you have other competitions that you also need to compete in, right? So for me, either they need to the either the EPL needs to adapt the same strategy where teams competing in the Champions League get an extra week of rest, or it needs to be banned outright. There is no postponing of games when you have the Champions League because it's definitely hurting the English teams in my opinion. But not to mention the fact that Liga also has four less games than the Premier
I'm not
League,
sure it's
given that they
hurting the
have.
English teams, Krista, but because, I mean, outside of PSG,
Mhm,
and I think Boda Glint, which other
mhm.
team has had games postponed to facilitate Champions League action? Not the La Liga teams.
So far, not the La Liga teams,
Right.
but
So
the depending on what's going on. Sometimes the Bundesliga teams get it.
is there evidence of that?
Usually Bayern. Evidence of what?
Of the Bundesliga postponing games
Oh
to
yeah,
facilitate
they
since
have
this season?
not this season. So I'm saying
But
not
we're
this.
talking about this season.
No, I'm saying so far, yeah, but we might see it in the next leg where
Well, we
well, in
don't
this case,
until we see it.
Bayern
Until we
might do it.
see it, we can't draw a conclusion on that. Of the teams that are left in the competition are who made it to I would say the round of 16. I've only seen two teams, which is PSG and Boda Glint, who have had games rescheduled to facilitate the playing of the Champions League. So generally speaking, I don't think it is a wholesale situation. The La Liga teams, Atletico Real, they didn't have any games postponed, yet they still eliminated Man City and Spurs. Galatasaray the same, but probably Liverpool did have an advantage with the fact that Galatasaray fans were banned from the stadium for a disciplinary reason. I mean, Arsenal played against Leverkusen. Leverkusen didn't have any games postponed. So it's just been two teams, Christoph, which, I mean, as I said, if it's not in violation of any rules, then I personally don't have an issue with it. But if it then becomes if it then becomes rather wholesale, or we see a lot of teams doing it, or the majority of teams doing it, then for sure that is definitely something for UEFA to take into consideration and look out for. But as I said, if there's no violation of any rules, then it's fair game. It's fair game at this point. And if I had the opportunity to get extra rest for my players, to give myself the best possible opportunity to play against my opponent, of course I'm gonna take it. So hats off to PSG for sure. Why not? Why not? And I mean, they seem to be running into form, so Liverpool definitely have to watch out for them in the next round of the Champions League. But yeah, that was not a surprise result to me, but uh it does raise a few more question marks around in the future of slot, Christoph. Are you a slot in or are you a slot out person at this point in time?
Um, in the context of them being, potential rivals in the future or next season, slot in. But in the context of a neutral, I think slot should be dismissed at the end of the season.
Mm,
It
regardless of where Liverpool
r-
finishes in the
r-
table,
right now it doesn't look like Liverpool will finish in the top five, in my
right?
opinion. But it raises big questions about the title win last season for him. Was it that
Well, I don't think it raises any question, Christoph. We
it
see
raises
how hard
it raises a lot of questions.
the Premier League is to win. So to be honest with you, I take nothing away from a manager that manages to win the EPL, Christoph.
No,
I mean, look
I
at
mean,
Leicester. I mean, Leicester won and then relegated the next season.
did they get relegated the next
Yes,
season?
man. Or relegated shortly thereafter. I'm not sure if it's exactly the season after, but
Yeah, I
relegated
don't
shortly
recall them
thereafter.
getting. I don't recall them getting relegated this season after, but I recall them having a bad string of results following the death of their owner.
Well,
There was a
maybe it's a
helicopter
thing.
crash.
Liverpool is dealing with a debt in the squad as well. Let's
There
not
was a
forget that.
there was a helicopter crash, and that seemed to affect the players, and
Correct,
that's when their
correct.
performances declined.
And Liverpool as well, Christoph, is dealing with a significant debt within the Liverpool squad. A man who was probably dubbed to be leading the offensive line. So that was a major miss for Liverpool. And you mentioned the big spending. That was probably part of the need to spend big in the summer as well. I mean, granted, a number of those signings have failed to impress, but you didn't sign a player for just one season. You signed a player for 4 year, 5 years. So I would say let's hold judgment of that player throughout the course of their contract. At the end of the contract, then you can formulate a conclusion to say this was a failure or this was a success. But at at present, it's hard to judge the signings. Let's take for example Isak, who has been potentially injured all season. How are you going to judge a man who is injured? And when he did play, he looked as if he had something to offer, to be honest with you. I mean, even the injury he picked up, it was upon scoring a goal that he broke his leg in that process as well. So the results are what they are. The signings, some of them haven't been as successful as one would have thought. But again, as I said, you didn't sign a player for just one season. You signed a player for 4 or 5 seasons. So let's see how that pan out. And but yeah, it's been a disappointing season as defending champions for Liverpool. I mean, it's not the fact that you're losing the title, but maybe it's the manner in which you're defending the title, and not necessarily the fact that you won't win the EPL again, but the manner in which you're losing the title. But for sure, interesting times ahead. Liverpool definitely have issues they need to rectify, but such are these things, such is life, and such are the turning wheels of the EPL, Christoph. 1 minute you're in, the next minute you're out. But quick touch on the relegation scrap, Christoph. Spurs going down to Forest, Christoph. Can Spurs survive? West Ham, ironically, also lost to Aston Villa as well. So the two teams probably who are battling to stay out of relegation both suffered defeat over the weekend. So it's a case of as you were. But Quickly, what is your call? Who will go down? Will it seem as if it's now a battle between West Ham and Spurs, Christoph? West Ham and Spurs. Who do you think will go down after two?
I think West Ham will go down. I would obviously have to look at the fixture list to see who each team faces,
Well, I
but
think Spurs has the toughest fixture list of those two or three teams. That even if you bring back Forest into the mix, Spurs has the toughest fixture list of those three teams. So I'm not sure. And of course, we see how Spurs is playing, so it's not even a case of just the toughest fixture list, but it's also the form being displayed and the manner of these defeats as well. I see something in the West Ham team, so my money is for West Ham to climb out, Christoph. I think Spurs will be the team going to the championship. That's where my money is. I think psychologically, if they were to spend a weekend in that red zone, I think it will be game set match right there. I don't think they can bounce back psychologically from seeing Spurs in that relegation zone. But stranger things have definitely happened. But quick stuff, any quick final thoughts before we wrap things up? Time is quickly running out. Any quick final thoughts? Carabao Cup, EPL, international games coming up as well.
um, not really. Good to have an international break in this one. Maybe some players will get some rest. Obviously, some players go out on the international break and won't get any, but it's a chance for teams to regroup. Arne Slot, Mikel Arteta, specifically those two probably need to regroup and sort their squads out for the remainder of the season.
Indeed, indeed, for sure. Lots of football coming up, viewers and subscribers. And of course, there is the big World Cup playoff coming up in the international break as well. The first of those games take place on Thursday. Jamaica versus New Caledonia. The winner of that game will play the Democratic Republic of Congo. And then the winner of that match goes to the World Cup. And the same thing in the other side of the draw. You have, I believe, Bolivia versus Suriname. And the winner of that game plays against Iran, I believe, to go on to the World Cup. So a slew of World Cup qualifiers and playoffs coming up in CONCACAF and also in Europe as well, Christoph. So these international games are not just friendlies, but they have some serious implications for teams who are looking to get to the World Cup coming up in the summer. That World Cup being shared between Canada, US, and Mexico. But viewers and subscribers, thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Christoph, thanks for coming on board and really sharing your thoughts and your opinions. Viewers, if you haven't hit that subscription bell as yet, help us to continue to grow the channel and hit that subscription bell. Of course, leave your comments in the comment section. Did Arteta get it right? Or is it the players that are to be blamed? Let us know in the comment section. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.